So today we're talking about automation and robotics. This really isn't anything new, but the reaction by labor, whether it's white collar or blue collar or somewhere in between, industry and the press are all over the place. My name's Don Creech.
And I'm Perry Sykes, and welcome to the Investor Resources Podcast.
So when I said automation isn't anything new, if you just think about it, you live in a world of automation. If any of you have ever worked in a blue collar job that involved factory work, automation is probably a given. I
It's
know
everywhere.
in my younger years, I had experience working in the shipbuilding plant and subassembly for Boeing. Both of them use automation, more so in the airline industry. But
Sure.
actually, we go back to, and we don't think anything of it. And when I hired on, I didn't think anything of it. That's just the way things work. But automating industrial plants came with a big fight. Labor looked at it post World War II as, particularly with Henry Ford, a means of destroying their jobs. Works was going to go away. They weren't going to need anybody anymore. That was the fear. But as it's turned out, that's not the way things work. It did mean that labor had to be retrained to operate the automation. Because now, if you take a look at some video on YouTube about how an auto manufacturer installs your wheel and tire on the car as it nears a finished assembly, the big arms comes down and screws on 5 bolts all at one time, then the thing is off onto the next one. And there's no way that an individual can do that as rapidly, as efficiently, and without the risk of misthreading a bolt or having to start over again because it wasn't aligned properly. So what does that mean for robotics? It means increased productivity, which means lower labor costs, which means a lower product costs with bigger benefits. And that's what we get today. And I'm using autos, but that's what we get today with autos. You look at all the extras that come in your automobile today that were inconceivable 10, certainly 20 or 30 years ago.
It's true, and usually those initial fears, especially by labor, they're never realized. 2 years post assembly line revolution by Henry Ford, there was a record high in employees working in the automotive assembly job category. There had never been more jobs because they were making so many more cars. It's just that the process changes significantly. Today's revolution is probably going to be the same. There's looking back over history, there's never been a huge industrial altering technology that's taken over that has ended up with fewer jobs after than before. They're just different jobs, and so there is a re-education process that has to go on, and some jobs are definitely eliminated because you get the people get to do a higher quality job instead of grunt work. All the robots take that over, and now the robots are becoming more and more capable, and that's it's going to be the same labor relocation issue where the people that used to do those jobs aren't going to do them anymore because the robots are going to do them. They're never going to get tired. They're almost never going to make a mistake. They're never going to have a sick day. For the most part, and those are huge advantages to lowering the cost, increasing productivity, and letting more people enjoy whatever it is that's being produced. And so, while it can be scary at the beginning, my job's going away. In general, the productivity increase means there's going to be more jobs altogether. And with AI, like they say, that's going to be a predominantly white collar revolution in the first big wave. It's going to be all those low level management positions that don't really require a lot of vision for decision making. It just needs the information that someone gets by working there. Not going to need that person anymore. They're going to need to be doing something else, and they'll find a higher value job for them to be doing, and let the robots and the algorithms take over the mundane day-to-day stuff.
And when we think about it, if we didn't have automation and robots doing a lot of work, we'd be paying a lot more for all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah.
As we record this, this is the week that Amazon's Prime Day takes effect. It's not today, but it's coming this week. And without robots, Amazon would not be able to offer as many products or as inexpensively, or if you're a Prime member, pay for the free 1 day delivery that you get as a Prime member. Robots make that possible. Well, there were a
Yep.
lot of people doing warehouse activity, which has serious risk attached to it with carrying stuff, working with high overhead items that can fall and hurt somebody. Somebody gets
Yep.
back with a lift truck. But you think of all the industrial accidents that can happen in a warehouse, and they are plentiful. Robots eliminate that risk, so that they're Amazon and all the others, Walmart comes to mind, have lower insurance operating costs. And the robots actually schedule themselves for their update, kind of like your car has a engine warning light when it's time to go get a checkup, change the oil, your water is overheating and the engine's overheating. You got warning lights to tell you that. Well, if you're running robots, the robots know when it's time to go get a checkup, get the lubricants checked, get some the filters cleaned, if whatever they have to do. But
They
that
do.
simplifies things, that brings costs down, it expands our quality of life, and we take it for granted. But you're right.
Right.
The major area of impact initially, if implementation, is the middle manager. And my youngest son has worked off and on for Microsoft. In this last job, excuse me, he was supervising 5 major subunits in various countries. And his job was to figure out how to generate efficiency. And so it took several years, but as he was telling me, I got the job done, went and tell my boss that, okay, I've done my task. And the boss's question says, great, is there anything else needs to be done? And he says, no, we got to complete it. He said, then what do we need you for? And he says, I guess nothing. And he said, okay,
Well,
I've got 90 days.
thank you very much. Time to move on. Right.
That's right. So you're going to, if that happens to you, I mean, that's not good news. But in terms of Microsoft's operation, it was good news because
Correct.
he increased efficiency by 40% for the units he was supervising, and he
And so
eliminated
many
his job.
times. Yep, when those and those kinds of functions, anytime things are if it's just logistics, it's getting things from point A to point B safely and timely. Human beings are almost always the weakest link in that chain of command, and if they can get people out of there, not only is it safer, it's significantly more efficient and less expensive. And like you said, Don, it's important to remember that makes things better for everybody. That's going to free up assets to go do something else, and a higher value input. That's where people are going to end up. They're not going to disappear, but what they're doing is going to need to change. So you're going to need to be, alert to where is, if you in your industry, where things are heading, where things it looks likely that AI is going to come in, and robotics now are going to come in and displace humans completely, because there are going to be fairly significant swaths of industry where that occurs. But that just means there's going to be more opportunities somewhere else, and you're going to need to identify those and make a move, get the education, get the new training, and go do those, because those are going to be the positions that are also in demand. That's where there's not going to be people yet, and people that understand that and are moving in that direction, you're going to get picked up in fairly short order.
It's also going to change the focus of higher education marketing.
Oh, sure.
What comes to mind is some of the radiologists, physicians I've had with clients as clients over the years, and as automation has come into play, which is basically early AI work, reading your MRIs and your X-rays.
Yep.
And it used to take hours or maybe days if a holiday was around and there were fewer guys working during the holiday, and you needed one before they could figure out what was wrong with you and how they were going to treat you. And it
Right.
was, well, you're in line. The doc's going to get to it pretty soon. Now with AI, you can have somebody in India actually doing the work because the stuff's all been shuttled and pre-processed, and he just puts the final stamp on it, comes back, and it's almost instantaneous, which means that we're going to need fewer radiologists as time goes by because the computer's going to do much more than they have in the past. And when you have the same thing with surgeries, very difficult surgeries are assisted with robotics that were inconceivable years ago. That was just basically, well, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's a death sentence. There's just nothing we can
Yep.
do here. And
Yep.
now robotics makes some basically miracles happen in the surgical laboratory.
And
Uh,
it's not because the surgeons have all been replaced. It's because the surgeons have been augmented with AI, both just in the practical side of how do we physically get this operation done? They're very good at that already. And also, what's the next best step here? So even in the during surgery, the diagnosis of, well, should we do this or should we do that? Because a lot of times it's, well, we could go with scenario A or scenario B. What should we do? And AI can run down very, very quickly for that individual and say, in this case, here's what we should do because of the possibility of better outcomes. And it happens in real time as they're working, and it really changes everything as far as the confidence that they have in the path they take. It takes a lot of the guesswork out, and then it also helps with physically doing whatever that operation is. So it's a plus plus for everyone involved. It's just a matter of making sure everybody trusts what's going on, and everything's proceeding correctly. So right now we still need that surgeon in the room. We still need somebody there to say, whoa, 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 no, that's not right. That can't be right. Here's what we need to look at. And as they get better and better, of course, that surgeon's going to have less and less to do. But right now, still a very critical part of the whole situation there.
Certainly, and people are going to figure out that they need to be cross-trained with some other specific skill.
Sure.
Because if you come looking for a job, you've got to be able to say, this is what I can do for you and help you out. And part of that's going to be understanding how AI operates that industry. And what's happening is with what is called the large language models, where AI is learning as an ongoing basis, is as data increases for more specific jobs or tasks, those large language models are also going to become specialized, and they're
Correct.
going to get even better at it, at whatever that particular task is. We're going to see that in the financial services industry. It's already in the process of developing, and it's going to become more finely tuned than virtually anybody had imagined 5 years ago.
Right, right, and that's going to be much easier than say surgery, which is highly complex compared to what we do. So when it's already moving into the financial services, you can get funds that are run completely by AI right now, and they don't do that great all the time because we're not there yet. But they're coming, and they're coming fast, and lots of the legal questions are going to become just we're going to just rely on AI to find what's the best solution here. What's the most efficient estate plan that we need to be looking at? It's going to be able to derive answers to those kinds of questions very quickly and very accurately, and then produce all the documents you need very quickly to implement those plans. Again, greatly expanding the access to those processes and lowering the cost across the board. So for the consumer, again, it's a win-win. There is no downside. It's just that we can't turn them loose yet at this point. There are still mistakes that get made, things that get overlooked, things that AI doesn't think of yet, and it's going to get better and better at that. It's just a matter of it's on a learning curve like a human being is. It's just that its learning curve is much more quickly run through than human beings can manage.
Well, speaking of mistakes, attorneys have a particularly difficult job because AI can be very creative. It has, in fact, created its own prior court cases, documented
Yes.
them, and make them look like they were real. And
Yep.
an alert judge this last year figured out that the attorney who had submitted his his case had actually used AI with made up cases. The judge caught it and said, "This better not happen ever again." So
Yep,
it's not quite ready on intellectual stuff that we can just turn it over and rely on it. You still
correct.
need somebody with some background experience and training to
To vet
double
that
check the
output,
output.
you have to pay attention to what it's saying because it's not always correct at this point, and that's very important.
But as humans, we often look at things with fear when it's new and unknown. And
Sure,
this is justifiable. We don't understand all of what it's going to do yet, but it's not something that we should not embrace. That is, it's going to be an enhancement to the general economy and to our lifestyles.
it is.
And if you want to talk about this or anything else with regard to your portfolio in the market, give us a call. The contact information follows here. We'll talk with you on the phone, set up an online chat with you, share screen with you, look at your portfolio, and give you input for you to consider. Thanks for being with us today.